good. At this time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 Board of Education meeting to order for Thursday, March 19th, 2020. Pledge of Allegiance.
Could you project?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Janet.
Here.
Ms. Janice Doyle.
Here.
Mr. Kirky.
Here.
Mr. Lacine.
Here.
Mr. Luchetti.
Here.
Mr. Costick.
Here.
Ms. Stokes.
Here.
Thank you. Anybody signed up for public comment? I assume not. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of the regular meeting minutes of February 20th, 2020, approval of the closed meeting minutes for February 20th, 2020, approval to hold the closed session minute summaries from June 20th through December 19th of 2019, approval of the payroll of March 5th, 2020, presentation of invoices for February 21st, 2020 through March 19th, 2020. Approval of the student activities report for February 2020, approval of the personnel report, employment, approval of the personnel reports, resignations, leaves, the interfund loan resolution, approval of the Board of Education meeting schedule of 2 for 2020 and 2021, approval of the District 210 advisory minutes from February 10th, 2020, IHSA membership renewal for the 2021 school term, out-of-state travel. Does anyone wish to have anything pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
Move.
I have a motion by Mr. Kirky and a second by Mr. Lucine. If you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the action item, the treasurer's report.
Yes, in your packet tonight, the treasurer's report for February 29th ending. We recorded just over $2 million in revenue and expended $7.1 million in expense. Our actual cash balance was $5.1 million at the end of the year, or at the end of the month, with a fund balance of 2.9, because now we've been borrowing, so that's why there's a difference. As far as the cash flow, the monthly variance, we were very tight. We were 34,000 to the positive. Things look really good there. As far as year to date, the district is 5.55 million better than we were last year at this time. As we continue to grow stronger financially. As far as revenue goes, we're actually about 0.3% ahead of last year, and that's due to the strong tax collection we had in the spring, or in the fall, and grants and student fees. Our interest income is going to be kind of a mixed bag. We were on track to make the budget. Now with everything, the difficult economic situation, they've lowered the rate. Old Second has down to 1.1. I haven't got any notification, but I'm sure it's coming. They're probably going to lower it more. So with that, we have quite a spread now between our TAWs and our investment rate. So we're really going to be pushing tight on the cash flow, try to make sure we minimize that as much as possible. As far as expenditures go, there we're looking great. We're running 1.6% below where we had been trending in prior years. That's mainly due to the lower salaries and lower benefits. The only place we're really tight, tuition to 843, we're going to be very close there. Special ed, private facilities, it looks like we're probably going to be over budget a little there. And then 843 transportation. They changed how they're billing us. We're supposed to be getting our last bill in March. We're already over, so I'm anticipating we're going to be about at least 100-some thousand over there. overall, we will be under budget, but we are going to be, this is our toughest places, the special ed, tuition, and 843 is where we're the tightest. Everything else is looking good. I expect to be well under budget overall across all funds in the end. Any questions?
Question, based on our current.
I have a quick question. You might have mentioned this is Deidre. When the AP ops and maintenance, we spend a little bit more this year, and you might have mentioned what was that increase? I mean, great job on overall. I just had a question about that line item.
On which one, maintenance?
Yeah, the AP ops and maintenance for expenditures, I think the projected was 532,900, and actual was 605. You may have mentioned what was the increase.
Brad, is that gonna be service contract with, primarily with HVAC?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, we are above budget right now in some of our HVAC, and, you know, we'll continue to monitor that as the year goes on, but that's where we are a little bit over.
And we
Okay.
did meet with the, you know, we've had difficulty keeping staff. We did hire a new person that we're very pleased with. But we met with the contractor that's helping do most of our catch-up maintenance on that. And we're working with him to try to minimize those bills by having him help us identify and prioritize exactly which things need done first. Now, we've got another maintenance person on staff.
And we've got one dedicated maintenance individual now per building whose main responsibility will be our PM, preventive maintenance of all of our HVAC systems. We're hoping that this helps, but as Brad mentioned, we were able to hire an individual that does have experience. That's something we've had a hard time finding here over the last several years. But good question. Joe,
Thank you.
Yep, Joe, you had a question?
Okay, so obviously we're not operating right now. Have you calculated what the positive, like, we're gonna see some expenses that will be less, I'm assuming?
Well, we're continuing to make all payroll,
Right.
which is our largest. You know, utilities, natural gas has been great because it's been so cheap. And you know, I have not calculated or set down, but we certainly can say where we'd probably come in. Differences with electric and natural gas. Well, we're past the heating, so now it'd be just electricity, as we don't need to light the buildings. And then as we start to move into air conditioning season, if we're not here, we won't be air conditioning. So that would be our biggest savings.
We've
So
also, Brad and Rich spoke with ABM, our custodial cleaning service, and there'll be a reduction in those costs over the next several weeks. This week, we're still on full cruise as we're doing a deep clean of all buildings, but as this continues, they will be scaling down their crews as we work through. Rich will have a calculation of some of the savings on electricity after the next week and a half, but there will be some small savings, won't be significant. Good
But
question.
we did meet with ABM, and we're talking about modifying their contract. So we're looking at how we can do just during if there is an extended shutdown, how we could get summer cleaning done, minimize staffing, and, you know, write an addendum. They've already said they're open to that. We're contracted with them through June 30th, but, you know, there's flexibility in that contract, and we'd be exercising that. So we can get that together and kind of
Yeah,
get
Rich
updates
can
in
get us
Friday,
we can get a
Friday
projection.
updates.
Yep. Good question.
Any further discussion? If not, I entertain a motion to pass the treasurer's report for February 2020 as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, probationary teacher non-renewals.
I could do this one for us. I would ask for a motion to approve the resolution for dismissal and non-renewal of certain non-year or non-final year probationary teachers, Trey Murray and Catherine Schreck, as presented.
Any discussion? With that, I would entertain a motion to pass the probationary non-renewal as presented.
Move.
There's a motion, have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If you could open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, intergovernmental reciprocal reporting agreements with Frankfurt, Manhattan, Mokina, New Lenox, and Tinley Park.
This is something we've been working on for a while. My angle now is I would like for our board to approve these intergovernmental agreements. I will then take them to the villages, and either their police chiefs or their mayor, village councils will approve these. What this would allow is open communication regarding threat assessments, any type of arrest, we would be able to share information, and it does a couple things. Obviously, it protects students and staff as we're aware of issues that might be going on in the community that we're not aware of, but also we can make law enforcement aware of some of our concerns. Additionally, it would provide support it would allow us to provide support for students that we may not know about that are having difficulties or problems, and maybe we can help with some guidance in the decision making. So we do have communication with our law enforcement agencies now. However, this formalizes that communication under law. It's been approved by our board attorney, and I know several village attorneys have looked at this as well.
Is this something that other Board of Educations do in the area?
That I don't know. That's a good question. Before they changed some of the laws, all area police departments and all our feeder districts and ourselves would meet monthly to discuss a list of kids. And then some of the legislation changed that limited some of that freedom of information. Now a lot has happened since then in today's nature that has swung the pendulum the other way. So by us approving this would allow for that free exchange once again, and I think it's beneficial to both parties. And as I said, it's not only to make us aware, but also provide us the opportunity to maybe help those students who may be in trouble.
If we're ever challenged on this, I assume our insurance would pick up the cost of the litigation.
Yeah, I'm sure they would, and they would probably hire Hauser Izzo. But yeah, John Izzo felt that this is very amenable, and once again, Village of New Lenox and Frankfurt attorneys have both approved this as well.
Okay.
Have the other communities looked at it?
Yeah, Manhattan and Mokina have both looked at it as well. I don't know that their attorneys have, Chris. I just know that Frankfurt and New Lenox attorneys have both approved the language.
Any further discussion?
Scott, do other districts do this?
I don't know, Joe. That's something I can find out. This is something the police chief of Frankfurt and I started a conversation probably about 9 to 10 months ago as we started working on this document. He did get this template, and I don't know where the district was he got it, Joe.
I'll speak up. I'll speak up next time.
Yeah, that was the first question Aaron asked, but.
So
we're all-
far off.
we're all
You didn't
far
see over
away.
there, Joe.
But,
No, that's a good question. I know this was a template that another district used, and I don't know who it would be. I don't know who it was, Joe.
There's no further discussion. I'd entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental reciprocal reporting agreements as presented.
What? I'm just kidding.
I had trouble.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, Sourcewell contract for field turf replacements.
The only capital project that we kept on this agenda, you know, our original plan was to bring everything forward in February. We pulled it back. With everything that has happened here over the last couple of weeks, we've pulled the remainder of our capital projects back as we try and get a better handle on where we may be financially, and also where some of the construction will be. And parts and materials was also a consideration. The only one the administration left on the agenda, and we'll look for guidance from the board, would be the turf replacement at East.
West.
My bad, left. It's
1 year.
Yeah, but
it's one year, we did that last year. It's beyond its useful life. It was installed in 2009, 8-year warranty, we're on year 11. Last year, did the impact testing in the fall, added additional fill to make the turf playable. It would be our recommendation that we move ahead with the Sourcewell covering. This is a timing issue. We've talked to the installer and the manufacturer, and they, from a timeliness perspective, Rich and I both talked to them this afternoon. They need to get going on this. They would like to schedule, obviously get it in place, but also from a manufacturing side, the coloring and the design, they would need to get moving on. It'd be our recommendation to do this. Obviously, the other capital projects, we're gonna have to have quite a bit of discussion. There are a lot of things that can change between now and the time we present the budget in September. Chris and I talked this afternoon. There's a possibility what we're seeing now could be replicated next fall in terms of a stoppage of school. We've got to sit back and, you know, we're currently not one-to-one. You know, do we use resources to provide a device for each student? You're going to see that we have a first reading of student fees. The administration is going to spend quite a bit of time over the next 3 weeks problem solving and discussing. Is it time to put a device in each student's hand, even if we're not all in one-to-one, to provide the capability in the case that we are in a shutdown. So this is a fluid, all of the capital projects are fluid. We're gonna come back and talk over the next month. We've talked to the architects in terms of the timing. It's likely the general contractor part of this, we're not gonna be able to do this summer. That's doors, hardware, weight room at East. So we've discussed these, and we just think that maybe it's more poignant to pull them back and have discussions in these next 30 days. And I'd open it up then to thoughts or comments from the board.
Agreed.
Why wouldn't we pull this back? Wait to see where we're at?
If we're gonna do it, we would have to do it now. If we don't wanna do it, then we won't be able to do it. This was the one item on there that we would consider student safety.
Yeah, I left that field
It's also
3 years ago.
outside.
Correct.
I left that field 3 years ago when I left coaching over there. It was bad then. I mean, there are some potholes on that field. And we just kept up, they filled it in before it ever started the season, but there are some, it's got some bad spots.
Well, how old were the central and east turf when we replaced those last year?
They were, I wanna say, 2 years older, but for whatever reason, from the time this one was installed, it did not hold up as well as the other two. The seams for whatever reason didn't hold up as well. There was more warranty work done on this field than the other two, but 11 years, and it does get quite a bit of use. We are, you know, budget-wise, we know there are a number of things that can happen. You know, and we've discussed a number of them in this administrative team. With this in place, we still have our fund balance 420 plus about $3.5 million in capital projects. So really about $6 million that there's still a discussion of. Was I right on that number?
Yeah, 6.5.
About $6.5 million that we can still discuss of whether we wanna hold back all of it, or do some capital projects, or if we need to use it towards instructional materials, but those are discussions that I think will have to take place over the next month.
So this is about 8 or 9% of the total capital projects budget, this one item. Yeah.
This would be 500,000 of the total of 4.2 million, but once again, I don't anticipate us,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
10%.
I don't anticipate administration recommending to the board that we do all 4.2 million that we had originally put in the 5 cap. I don't anticipate that happening.
So, I mean, this is the top priority then, because, again, I think there's just a lot of unknowns out here, especially with, you know, the state, and I just want to make sure, I mean, this is the hard thing, right, when we're paying capital projects from our operating budget, and you have to do it before you set a budget, and we're 4 months away still from a state that's gonna have to set a budget under completely different circumstances. We are fortunately in a much better spot than we were 3-4 years ago with some of these reserves, but I think we have to be really careful, because I think that we're gonna definitely have to probably reduce that capital projects budget, because we're not gonna wanna allocate that prior to setting a budget when we don't even know what the state's gonna be able to give us next year. And, you know, one of the things I brought up with Scott earlier was, you know, there's a good chance that, might not be this coming up in May, but starting in September and the next year, that, you know, we're not gonna collect 99% of our taxes as it looks right now.
Or if you do, it's not gonna be at the same time.
Yeah, it could be.
The main collection comes end of August, your second one comes right before the end of the year. So that throws 90 days worth of cash flow. It's gotta be supported from somewhere, and we don't have it in reserve.
Yeah, especially as you're looking at, I mean, especially if part of the, you know, stimulus packages, you know, mortgage delays or banks agree to something like that, and that's when they're collecting a lot of these tax payments. It's gonna be, I mean, sales tax revenue, there's nothing going on right now, right? And you have unemployment, I mean, I was telling Scott, I think the last 2 days, 40, or as of yesterday, 41,000 people filed in the state. And I mean, that's just gonna go up, so.
What's the cost when we patch this thing every year about?
The cost is, it's,
Nominal?
yeah, it's in the thousands of dollars to bring in the infill and, you know, we do the impact testing, and assuming the testing is to a point where infill corrects it, then it's a couple truckloads of infill. You know, we wouldn't want to be in a situation where they do the testing and they say, as has happened to other districts in the last couple of years, there's no amount of infill that can fix this, you guys are shut down in the fall. I don't think we're there yet, because last year when they did the impact testing, we were able to do the infill, but we will be running, I mean, we will be running out of years.
We do have the, this is only one person, but
Yeah.
we do have an extra field that if
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
If if it was deemed unsafe or unplayable, in an absolute pinch?
I mean, sorry, from the timing standpoint, April doesn't work for them. I mean, right now, I mean, everyone is basically, you know, in the business world, it's conserve cash, draw down your revolvers. The uncertainty here, you know, we'll have a better view of this and potentially in
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
4 weeks to 4 to
6 weeks, 8 weeks, I mean, we just don't know at this point.
Might be worth rolling the dice if we had to push this off a year, if they can't wait for us for a month.
And plus, I think they'll be pretty hungry for business.
And we have an extra field.
I'm sorry, Joe?
And we have an extra field. I mean, that's the other
Certainly, that's-
thing, is that we come back in September, August, we're in a full-blown deal, and the worst-case scenario would be that you can't use that field. That's not what we want by any
No.
stretch of imagination, but we do have the, at least for now, a fortunate opportunity of having an additional field. I want to go back to the one-to-one thing for a minute. So we're in an e-learning environment right now.
Correct.
Do we have any certain population of our student base that have the ability to access e-learning?
We don't right now, Joe, we don't. We have provided devices to those students who would want those devices. We have received emails from parents saying, I've got 4 kids trying to share 2 devices. You know, we've got to be patient with our grading and when assignments are turned in. So we have had several of those, but we have not had anybody who did not have a device, we allowed them to sign out a device. So we have had students in each building sign out a device.
We still, like, right now, there's still capacity. I mean, like, there's still extra devices.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
What about the network? Any,
the network.
well, with people coming in the
Bandwidth.
website and
No,
everything.
we've been okay. We've been okay. We've learned a little bit through this in terms of how teachers need to attach devices or attach documents. Can't put them all in one email and send them all out at one time.
Right.
But so we've learned a little bit there. Yeah. But we've been okay there. We've been okay there.
Yeah, I guess my concern with the field is we run into something, you know, at the end, school's done this year, for instance, come back and now we need to even go into the fall, like you're saying, now we need to provide a lot more devices to new students.
One of the things the state has asked is, are you one-to-one?
Right.
You have the capability to be one-to-one, how much money would you need to go one-to-one? So we gave them the price of what we would potentially anticipate. And if there are funds available, but I don't know where the state will get those funds, but those are questions that are out there now. And we wouldn't, I mean, there would be discussion at this level before we would even get to the point of, sure, is this something we
What
would
was
consider?
our number?
Well, it's a lease to purchase, Chris. If we're between 250 and 500,000 a year. The purchase is quite a bit more. The purchase is going to run 1.2 million based upon the device. Now, here's the trick bag. All these devices are made in China. You know, so I see there being a supply and demand over time. Issue with this. And a lot of the pricing depends upon 3-year lease versus a 4-year lease, those sort of things. And that's something that if we even decide to go in that direction of discussion, you know, what costs would be borne by parents, what costs by the district, the insurance, we'd have to break all that down, which we have documents on that. It's just, do we want to have that discussion?
So have we had conversations with Field Turf about, you know, pushing this back to a month?
We talked to them today, and they said it'd be difficult. Now, if we call them tomorrow morning and say, guys, it didn't go, we'll let you know next month, they've got to make a decision then whether or not they would hold on to a field for us. Typically, they get 5 of these, and so I don't know what their demand is right now.
Sure. And they're a nationwide company, or are they just strictly Illinois?
No, this would be, we're working through the Midwest rep
Okay.
right now. That's who we used last year as well. But it's,
I suspect we're not the only board having the discussion about whether or not tabling a field replacement at this month's meeting.
I wonder how many other boards have an extra field.
Yeah. Well, it might be worth the gamble to push this off a month and see where we're at.
okay. We can table it.
Entertain a motion to table this till the next meeting.
So moved.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
We have a motion to second. We open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion to table the Sourcewell contract passes.
Thank you. Moving on to informational
If I
items.
can jump in, can you find out like the drop dead date from them? Like if, you know.
All right, we've got to call them tomorrow when
Well, right,
Sure.
but I mean, we're
Yeah.
gonna consider it if they tell us, well, if it's not by April 30th, we're moving on, or something, just so
Yeah.
we have.
Or maybe they're gonna tell us tomorrow.
Yeah, they
So-
may.
Well, that's.
That's such a
Okay, they lost a half $1,000,000.
All right, moving on, informational items, report of the 843 Governing Board meeting from February 25th, 2020.
Of course, there's been some additional items, unfortunately, because of the school closing. And so, just to update everyone, is that the website for 843 was updated by Sarah Rexrod, and indicating that only essential employees will be reporting to District 843, and that the McKay and the Transportation Center was closed, and that Pioneer Grove was open to the public. As everybody knows, we have our meeting on this coming Tuesday at 7 as well. However, there's been a couple of new hires that she's made that took a great deal of time for her to find the right personnel for those positions, and so she worked something out with the attorney in trying to extend something creative so that she wouldn't lose those individuals. But of course, it's somewhat up in the air after spring break is supposed to end. So I'll probably have more information at the next board meeting. But other than that, what's in the minutes is what's going on with 843.
Thank you. Any questions for Deidre? All right, thanks, Deidre. Moving on, FOIA requests.
None to report.
How about that? All right, building and grounds.
Building and grounds is in your backup materials. If anyone has any questions, I can give those to Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Community relations report.
Also in your backup materials.
Asset of the month.
Positive identity, a sense of purpose. A young person believes that their life has a purpose. Listen to your kids when they talk about their dreams. Get excited. Ask how you can help. And then at school, encourage and support students in pursuing their dream.
Thank you. 210 advisory.
Beth, do you have anything to report? I think we're okay until the next meeting.
Beth, you there?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, there you are, Beth. We lost you. I'm sorry. Now I can hear you.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm in a weird spot right here. I'm in my mom's house. So the advisory board met again, and we finalized our proposal to change the determination for the GPA ranges for the cum laude designations based on our previous change of weighting grades by a point for honors and AP classes instead of the indexing system we used to use. So we do have the final recommendation for that. I anticipated that we were planning on voting, but obviously so many things are up in the air. So hopefully we'll be able to get this squared away within the next couple months.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on. First reading registration fees for 2021 school year.
Just included in the backup materials are proposed fees, a fee comparison. We did comparison of several districts that you'll see. Our overall fees are very comparable and in line with surrounding districts. The only districts whose fees are a little bit higher are one-to-one, so those students do get a device. We did take a look at transportation as we were asked to do. None of the districts that we compared charge for transportation unless it's within a mile and a half. We also charge within a mile and a half. So I included this. If you have any thoughts or considerations before the next meeting, please get those to me. But we're also going to be considerate of the timing of everything as we bring this forward. There have been years where we open up registration in March. Typically April has been as late as we have, but we're going to look at this and see where we go here over the next couple of weeks. But I'll be touching base with every board member between now and the next meeting and get their thoughts on several items, this being one.
Thank you. First reading textbook adoption.
So you'll see there are several textbooks that we are putting on display. This does not mean that we're going to purchase every one of these books, but we are finishing the master schedule now. These are the books that we would propose be in our replacement cycle. We do have a 5-year cycle in place now as we work through, and as we've discussed in the past, we went several years without replacing textbooks. And over the past 3, we've begun to cycle through and spend between $150,000 and $250,000 each year in replacing those educational materials. So these are books that we would propose. We will bring a final count and dollar amount back to the board next month. Obviously, once again, the timing, as Chris brought up, this is tough because we don't do the budget until September, but this would have to be included in next year's budget. We will be sensitive to that. Obviously, ordering books is something we will have to do in April, May, to have them here for the start of the school year, but it's something we will discuss and bring back for board consideration.
Real quick, these are physical books, and then there says online version available. Do we get the online version with the purchase of the book?
We do, and the online license then lasts for 3 to 5 years depending upon the book.
Okay.
So that's where they get you now.
Yeah.
Even if you get the book, you buy the online version, you'll have to re-opt.
The license.
And that's why it's so important now that we're on that 5-year cycle, because we are purchasing the online version.
Mhm.
And in many cases, just buying a classroom set with a physical book stays here, and then the online, the student can access from home. And so that does save quite a bit of cost, particularly when you're talking about a geography book for every freshman in the district.
Yeah.
So we go through the master schedule and determine, okay, at East, the most we have is 3 periods at once, so we purchase 95 books.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you. Moving on, internet safety and E-rate.
So this is a formality. We must, because we distribute, or we take part in E-rate funds, that during a public meeting, we acknowledge that we have discussion about internet safety with our students. We also use our firewall to protect our students from harmful websites and images. Our education is done through our asset program, and then also attached is our asset calendar. So for us to be able to participate in the federal E-rate program at a public meeting, we must acknowledge that we do these 2 items. And so I feel that we do a good job of each of these. We don't only talk about internet safety in our asset program. Our teachers have discussions with our students regularly. Also coaches and sponsors.
So that being said, we're on day 3 today, right? So has there been any issues with anybody, playing with the system or?
Not with the system. No, not with the system. You know,
Very smooth.
we're learning. We're learning right now, but I would say for 3 days in, everything's gone pretty well.
Good job, whoever put that together.
Teachers did a great job. Yeah.
Fiscal year 21 budget calendar.
Yes, it's there in your packet. The only change has been made from the last time you've seen this is, we felt it'd be important to move the 5-cast to next month and to, talk about the tentative budget at that point. And then also, we've tentatively moved, if we're gonna have any discussion about capital items, to April also, but that could be postponed further if we need. And then the only other change is in August. We had 2 meetings in August in the past. Now we're just gonna have the 1 meeting that was just approved, that schedule, so I just updated this to reflect that we'll have that public hearing and everything on the August 13th, we'll establish the public hearing. We'll actually have the hearing on the 17th and adopt the budget. So, but we'll be, each month we come, I'll be giving you updates and we'll be talking about it.
Can I ask a question about the preparation of the 5-cast? When does that actually take place? Does that take place just a day or 2 before you present?
Well, actually, I mean, it's a constant
Well, I mean,
work.
right, but I mean, are we gonna get a 5-cast that you're gonna start tomorrow and then 3 weeks from now, there's 30% unemployment?
No, he's changing it the day of, Aaron. See, that's why we weren't ready, because this is such a fluid document. To present it tonight with what we were thrown with this week didn't make any sense. So that's a great question. So we did a doom and gloom scenario, now we're gonna make it worse.
Right.
So that's a good question. You'll have an iteration the week out, but it's something we'll continue to work with.
And one as late as March 19th.
Well, we had one ready, but then we decided, what's the purpose? It's just too much up in the air.
Fluid,
I just wanna know when they were prepared.
yeah. It's,
If we get the most recent numbers, maybe get as of that day, if possible.
Yeah, you will.
This is moving very rapidly.
Check the Wall Street Journal for CPI. What do you think?
Yeah, man.
Might be negative.
Negative.
We do have our staffing is nearly complete, so that's our biggest expenditure, obviously. So our moving target now is gonna be that revenue item. I think we'll be able to zone in pretty well on our expenditures, even in the 5-cast. It'll be the revenue discussion that will have to take place.
District report.
Legislative is in your backup materials, a lot going on in Springfield, nothing really to report. From my perspective, a couple of things. We did receive the appraisal for the land. I'm gonna send that in my Friday update tomorrow. And then I'll probably ask President Costick to reach out to all members prior to our April meeting to continue discussion on that. I didn't know, we just received it yesterday, a little bit later than we had anticipated and hoped, so I don't think we'd be ready to take any action on that this evening. Also, there was the question about rounding off the curve of the long-term debt. So in tomorrow's update, you'll receive some information that both Brad and Bob Lewis from PMA put together in terms of the time and what that dollar amount would look like and it's more than 1 year, it's 2 or 3 years, Brad? What?
It's 3 years.
3 years.
The thing is, we knock down 1 year, that makes the next 2
Next
higher.
year, John.
So
So
we
it
have
would
to
be a
knock it down till we get to the
3-year
point where the.
3-year merged, and so I'll send that in my Friday update tomorrow, and that's something we can discuss in the future, but it would not have to be next fiscal year, but the following, depending upon how things go. Had we not been faced with this, we would have been in really good shape to be able to do that. Now we're gonna have some discussions, but at least we do have some information, and I think that's exactly what the board was asking for in terms of information for our discussion, so we'll have that ready. And then the last thing, obviously this is a challenge for everyone right now. It puts things in perspective. Health and safety is absolutely, without question, the #1 priority as we've worked through the recent challenges. Education takes a back seat for us. We have to, it's tough for educators to kind of keep things in perspective. And so I'm really proud of our staff. Many of you know when I received the correspondence weeks ago from the Illinois State Board of Ed that get your e-learning, get your continued learning, get everything in place. I worked with our union, I worked with our teachers, I met with our department chairs to determine that Friday we would scrap what we were doing and we would plan 5 lessons. Both enrichment, enhancement, continue learning. It was that day they determined that we were going to be out for quite a while longer, so teachers came back on Monday and we developed 4 additional lessons. So our students are now receiving lessons through the beginning of their spring break. I anticipate us having extended closures. We will continue to receive guidance from the Illinois State Board of Education, and we'll work through. There's been some confusion on grading, not to grade. Well, it was guidance, there were no laws. I trust our teachers to make decisions, and we need to hold students accountable, but they also need to get credit for the work that they do. I've asked our teachers to remain very patient and understanding as we work our way through this process, and I have every indication that they will. The few parents that I have talked to have understood kind of the direction of what we're trying to accomplish, but it is a stressful time for students. Our juniors and seniors that have 3 and 4 and 5 AP tests coming up, they're concerned about that.
Could you maybe address that? Do you know of anything that's gonna happen?
We're gonna find out tomorrow, Aaron.
Okay.
So College Board, their target date was the 20th to let us know what their plan is. Some of the early discussion was testing at home. They want the students to be able to receive credit for all the work that they've done this year. So once we receive that correspondence tomorrow, I will send an update out to parents on several items tomorrow. We have not communicated with parents since, must have been Tuesday, the start of e-learning, so we'll send out a correspondence tomorrow, and then we'll wait and see what guidance. Chicago Public Schools has extended their closure through April 20th, I believe it was. 21st. And so then we'll continue to go from there. But I'm proud of our teachers and our students. This has been a lot. It's something new, but we have to do what's in the best interest of the health and safety of our community.
other
there's.
district business. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Yes.
Chris?
No, I was just gonna ask, I mean, if there's additional closures for time, I mean, is there gonna be a period where we're gonna have the teachers prepare more plans? Is that how you would propose doing that?
Correct. So, all the teachers are still, for lack of a better term, working next week. So, I anticipate any announcement decision to be made prior to the end of next week. So that would provide additional days for students to work, or for teachers to work on lessons. And once we, let's have a scenario where we have an additional 2 weeks. Teachers would have the opportunity to work on additional lessons during that time. Our buildings are open to the teachers from 7 to 1. If they want to come in course groups and work, they can. But as this continues to go, we would ask our students or our teachers to continue to create lessons to fulfill that time. My fear is, you see several states who have already pulled the plug on the year. And that's a lot, that's quite a bit of learning that students are losing out on. That's over a quarter of the year. We're talking 10, 11 weeks. And I think that would be detrimental, particularly to some of our courses that, that student that needs to take calculus A, B, or BC the following year and is missing out on the Algebra 2 trig the fourth quarter. That's a challenge. And so those are the things that we're preparing for and having discussions with right now.
How would obviously if we are out in our 2 weeks, that would run into the SAT testing, which that's a state test now.
Many states have already filed waivers to do away with all testing this year. I don't anticipate us giving the SAT. In fact, they've already canceled the April 4th ACT that's scheduled for Saturdays. I don't anticipate us administering the SAT unless the state is able to get an agreement with College Board. Let's say we do come back at the beginning of May. At some point in May, we could offer that test. I would be in favor of offering the test. I believe that our students taking the test here during school is an advantage to them. So if we can get the test offered when we're back in school, we would want to do that, but that remains to be seen.
Okay.
Good question.
Well, speaking as a parent, it's, obviously difficult, but, teachers are doing a good job. And I know my child's in the basement working on his stuff all day and sending stuff in, so it's working the best I can in a tough situation.
Yeah.
And flexibility from the teachers is absolutely key. I really, really would like to stress that I don't wish any of these learning opportunities or enrichment opportunities to negatively affect any student's grade. My daughter has 2 friends specifically that go to West who are now full-time caregivers for small siblings all day. So they are not able to have as much time to work on. It's a lot of, I looked at my daughter's lessons yesterday. This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I just, I really hope that all of the teachers are on board with being flexible with due dates and grading.
Yep, and each principal reiterated that in an email out to their teachers Wednesday and Thursday, and I think that's a good point. That's something we'll have to continue to drive home, is that everybody's situation is not the same, and I completely agree with that. Not everybody has their own device. Not everybody is able to take those 6 to 8 hours during the day and work on this. So there'll need to be some flexibility and understanding. It's a very good point.
Are we keeping parents informed through Skyward with the grading? Are we able to are the teachers able to upload that information? Obviously it's only 3 days, but this gets into 3 weeks. How is a family to know that, the kid's on a computer all day, but he ain't going home?
The completion grades will reflect that. So
Okay, so we are gonna keep up to date on that, starting something.
Correct. The teachers as they collect will be inputting those assignments.
Okay.
And if you see a bunch of blanks, then it's time to send an email or to go down.
So
to
they have enough, the teachers have enough time to.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any correspondence?
None to report.
There was no closed session this evening. Anything else? No. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Have the ladies on the phone.
Yeah, they heard it. You heard it. Anything else, Deidre, Beth?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? The motion carries, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.